Now, these are the ordinances which you will set before them. That's the beginning of our reading this week. In some Bibles, that word ordinance is translated as judgments, or rules, or decisions, or even rights. Excuse my Spanish, but in the Reina Valera, the word is decretos, or decrees. In Hebrew, the word is mishpat in singular. And in the plural form, it's mishpatim. And that one word includes all of our English words and actually a lot more. Hebrew is such a compact, efficient language that one word can pack in a lot of different meanings. Today, I want to explore one of the nuances of the word, mishpat, and connect it to the events at the end of this week's reading. Some of you will figure out along the way some of us can figure out a movie plot in the first few scenes. Before we begin, it's confession time. I went over this parsha many times. I kept reading the surface words. I considered every category mentioned, and I'm going to list them all for you right now. Slavery, violence, property, restitution, social laws, fair justice, which includes the sabbatical laws and Shabbat, the holy days, the promised land, the blood of the covenant, and lastly, the summit on the mountain. My mind was swimming. I went to bed one night, and after prayers, I talked to Adonai, which I try to do as much as I can. I asked him, what do you want me to say to these people? The next morning, I heard somewhere in the back of my thoughts, talk about me. Now, I knew it wasn't about me. It was about Adonai. Now, I admit, some of you know me who know me very well, sometimes know I'm a little thick in the head. I don't always listen, and I may run with my original perceptions as if that's everything that it is, but it isn't. I'm learning to carry that crossbeam that I have. It gets a little heavy sometimes, and it slips right off my shoulders. I thought, okay, I should focus on the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, the New Covenant. This week, the New Covenant reading is about the Transfiguration, the conference between Yeshua, Elijah, and Moses. They were discussing what was to happen to Yeshua when he went to Jerusalem. I was so sure that's what it was, but it wasn't. We had just covered that in the KHD podcast. I soon realized that that was not what I was supposed to talk about, not entirely. So I picked up my Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew English lexicon. Some of you probably have one. And I began to take apart the parsha word by word. And that's when it struck me, right in the face. Not some deep, esoteric, hidden message, but right in plain sight. Mishpat means judgment, decrees, etc. But it's also used throughout the Torah as an attribute of Elohim. That's right, an attribute of our God. Isaiah 30, verse 18 puts it this way. Therefore, Adonai is longing to be gracious to you. Thus he will be exalted, so he may have mercy on you. For God is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. That sounds absolutely amazing in English, but that phrase, Adonai is a God of justice, is actually Elohim Mishpat Adonai, or Yud He Vav He. Isaiah makes it a title. That phrase is actually a title of our God. Elohim Mishpat Adonai. This is something that Father Abraham knew from his friendship with Adonai. He didn't get it from fear. Far be it from you, he said, for shall the judge of the whole world not exercise justice? Genesis 18:25. And David, King David recognized this attribute, not from what you would think, not from fear, but from watching the creation, watching animals, trees, people, what we call nature. The works of your hands are truth and mishpat. All his precepts are trustworthy. Now, I shortened that, but you can read that in Psalm 111, verses 7 through 8. And by the way, in case you're wondering, the Torah has a separate word for our English word, judge. In Hebrew, the word for a judge is shafat. It's a verb. It means contend, execute a decision, or plead, like in a case. For Adonai is our judge, our shafat. Adonai is our lawgiver, our kakak. Adonai is our king. He will save us. Isaiah 33:22. Just in case you thought maybe Isaiah maybe misunderstood the word. Mishpat is Mishpat is a noun. And it has a much deeper meaning. Now there are some people for whom the word judgment brings to mind a trial with a judge dressed in a black robe, with lawyers to accuse and defend, passing a verdict with punishment or vindication. A lot of us have that in our minds. We bring man's perception of the law and the courts, and we impose that on the Creator. So we think when we do wrong, when we slip up, when we sin, that there is now only damnation, punishment, and eternal fire. But that's not who our God is. That kind of thinking, it's actually a form of pagan idolatry. How is that type of fearful dread any different from the old Greco-Roman gods, one of whom was celebrated yesterday, or the Asian or the Native American gods of this world? It's not, but it has nothing to do with us. The lawgiver of the universe, Elohim Mishpat Adonai, or Al Shaddai, who sustains and judges righteously, he gives us his way of thinking so that we can learn to be like him. His Mishpat, this parsha, with all of those rules and regulations, as we call them, are not about the rules and regulations, not so much. What they are about is coming to understand how he thinks. They're really his way of thinking. He's trying to teach us how to get along with others and how to get along with him. You see, you can summarize them all in that one statement. Imagine now, if you fall in love with someone very special, and the two of you actually sit down and you kind of like share, which I know never happens. You share how to get along, so there's no guessing, no constant mistakes, no constant apologies, no fights, but always, always being quick to forgive. Sounds like a wonderful relationship, right? That is literally who Adonai is. He is just, right, righteous, true, merciful, forgiving trespasses. That's right there in the commandments. I wonder how many of us see that and how often he says that throughout the scriptures. Merciful, forgiving trespasses. It's one of his names, one of his titles. Adonai, knowing our frailty and our weakness, established that we are to judge only with 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, why would he do that? Because somebody messed up, and our limited senses can't perceive or understand what's the true story behind the situation. So he requires that we have 2 or 3 witnesses. We need those witnesses. He doesn't. Adonai's nature is just. It's also balanced, righteous, and we are not. We are not balanced, nor are we righteous, nor are we just. At least not yet. But that is also our inheritance. We make a whole lot of, something about eternal life, but that is only part of our inheritance. This life is actually a boot camp preparing us to become like our Father. The way you've seen ducks kind of walk behind their parent, when they're walking around, the kids are following around, every foot, every step. He is teaching us. That's the purpose of Mishpatim. That's the purpose of all of those, as we call them, rules. The sovereign of all creation sees all things from all levels. Now, you're going to have to stay with me for a moment. He sees everything from all levels, all angles, and all ages, through all of the years. He has angels who bear witness and testify, in the heavens above. Nothing slips by him. Yeshua warned his disciples who were about to establish a different kind of faith, or a deeper, more meaningful faith. He warned them that the angels of the little ones continually see the face of his Father in heaven. So, slow down. Think about it for a moment. Don't discourage anyone. Moses said that the heavens and the earth act as witness, so you can't get away from anything. David, King David, he said, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence?" Adonai said through the prophet Hanai, which probably most of us don't know, but it's in 2 Chronicles, chapter 16. He told him, "For the eyes of Adonai range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are wholly his. He is not sending his spirits out to condemn us." To the eternal Elohim, nothing we say or think or do is hidden. He weighs everything. When we walk with him, he knows. When we lift each other up, even quietly off in a corner, we know, he knows. And we do it to him. See, we think we're looking at the person and we're trying to encourage them. But in fact, you are encouraging him. That is love, friendship, relationship. And in that kind of a relationship, there is no place for fear or dread. It has nothing to do with love. In fact, we should do as Paul says, "Let love be without hypocrisy. Detest what's evil, but hold fast to what's good. Be tenderly devoted to one another in brotherly love." And then, I'm going to jump away from the scripture for a moment because I want you to really pay attention to this. He says, "Outdo one another in giving honor." I wonder how many of us do that. That's in the book of Romans, chapter 12. We are to try to outdo each other. And that includes outdoing the honor that God gives to us. We are to give honor and praise. And we should be talking about him so much that people get sick of us. We must never see Adonai filtered through the eyes of men. He is not a man. And he is not a man in a black robe with a powdered wig who sits on a chair of wood or metal. His thoughts are literally higher than the skies of the earth and vastly more complex. So let's take a look at it. By his wisdom, he stretched out all the vastness of the universe, and he put his children on a marvelous little blue ball, a little blue marble, swimming with diversity of life that we have yet to comprehend. Then he told us, from that little blue ball, to look up, look up. And he challenged us to count the stars, knowing full well we have no number to count such a vast number. What's more, he knew what we saw as stars were actually galaxies and clusters of galaxies with trillions of stars in each. Each of those galaxies and every star, he knows them by name. Each one of them. I have trouble remembering 50 names. I'll be honest. But he knows every single celestial body because he designed and assigned each one of them in their orbits. And he knows every one of us because he designed us and he put us exactly where and when he wanted us to be here. And why? So that we have the best chance to become just like him. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you established, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Yet you made him a little lower than the angels and crowned him with glory and majesty. You gave him dominion over the works of your hands, You put all things under his feet. Adonai, our Lord, how excellent is your name over all the earth. Psalms 8. I will tell you a secret. The Creator told us to look up to count the stars, and then he told Moses that the stars will be given to us as a heritage to all the peoples and nations of earth. There are more stars out there than we can count. We don't have a number for that. That's our heritage as well. That's in Deuteronomy 4, verse 19, for those of you who want to see. But we will not enter the stars as reckless cowboys, pillaging and destroying everything and everybody in sight. That's not the way we are going to receive our inheritance. Each of us must learn to embody the ways of our Father and his Son. We need to get in line like those little ducklings following the duck, the mother duck. We have not seen the Father. No one has. But we have come to know Ben Elohim. Much more than you think you do. He was once clothed in majesty, surrounded by power that looks like fire. His eyes were ablaze, and from his presence came thunder and lightning and light. He stood on the mountain at Sinai. When he spoke, mountains moved, and they crumbled like sand on the seashore. Rebellious, unclean spirits cowered in fear and hid themselves from his light, and they had reason to be fearful. He had a voice that was more powerful than the rushing waters of a powerful waterfalls, and was greater and stronger than the angelic shofars, which can be heard from one end of the planet to the other. Now, consider this for a moment. The one who stood on Mount Sinai and told the people to stand back, lest the rocks crush you and destroy you. That's Ben Elohim. But then, he did something very unusual. He came to his own family as a lowly man, living among men. Moses and Elijah, who were taken up into the heavens centuries before the Second Temple, they came down to consult with him. They came down from the heavens to consult with Ben Elohim as a man. The power of the Ruach HaKodesh emanated from him. The man, he did not sink in water. He could walk across the water. And the winds obeyed his commands. If he said, be still, the winds stopped. And even his shadow could heal any disease, any disability. Then he did something that the world and the faith could not understand, even though it was written for them over and over again by the prophets. He laid down his life to defeat death for all ages and for all times. But he did not stay in the grave. He took his life back forever. Ben Elohim and the Son of Man is one. But he is a new creation. New, brand new. There's no one else like him. He's the firstborn of countless many to follow. The glory he once had was restored to him. Then Ben Elohim was lifted up into the clouds as his disciples watched. Now I want you to pay attention to this. Because across time, centuries earlier, Daniel saw that event. Daniel said, behold, one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was brought into his presence. Dominion, glory, and sovereignty were given to him, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will never pass away, and his kingdom is one that will not be destroyed. Daniel said this centuries before the man walked the earth. He saw it from heaven because our Father wanted us to record it so that we know. All you have to do is read it, and you'll see that he saw that same event. The apostles were looking up as he was rising up into the clouds, And Daniel was in heaven witnessing, like a reporter, everything that was going on. John said this. The emissary John, who lived with, ate with, walked with Yeshua, said, many years after into his lifetime, he said, I saw golden menorah. In the midst of the menorah, I saw one like a son of man, clothed in a robe down to his feet with a golden belt wrapped around his chest. Now he had seen him in life as a man. His head and his hair were white like wool, white like snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire. His feet were like polished bronze, refined in a furnace, and his voice was like the roar of rushing waters. Search the scriptures. Show me another man who speaks like the roar of rushing river, like the roar of rushing waters. In his right hand, he held 7 stars, and out of his mouth came forth a sharp, 2-edged sword. His face was like the sun shining at full strength. When I saw him, now keep in mind, he had seen Yeshua when he was alive. When he saw him, I fell at his feet like a dead man. But he placed his right hand on me, saying, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last, and the one who lives. I was dead, but look, I am alive forever and ever. Moreover, I hold the keys of death and Sheol. That's in the first chapter of Revelation. Always remember what Yeshua said before we go any further. Not that anyone has seen the Father. Who were we seeing? Except the one who is from God. He has seen the Father. And now, let us come to the end of this message. Mishpatim is not just about rules, but about learning about the God of Israel. Elohi Mishpat Adonai. Learning his ways. Learning to walk, to talk, and to think like him. At the end of this reading, the God of Israel showed himself to the people, to the elders of Israel. Then, and I'm going to continue now with the parsha which we all hopefully read. Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up. They saw the God of Israel. What did I say? No man at any time has ever seen the Father. They saw the God of Israel, and under his feet was something like a pavement of sapphire, as clear as the very heavens. Yet he did not raise his hand against the nobles of Bnei Israel. So they beheld God, and they ate and drank. That's the end of the parsha, Exodus 24. So I invite all of you, all of us, to put away any fear of damnation, punishment, and failure, and instead to wash our bodies, cleanse our hearts and our minds by adapting the ways of Elohi Mishpat Adonai, and to boldly come to the mountain and to eat and drink in the presence of the God of Israel. Shabbat Shalom.
And as we continue to pray for all those who are